Hey, what's going on, everybody? Here we are back again with another The Journey Talk story here. And today I got with me Ivory Kalber, who is somewhat of a newer agent to the team and to EXP, but has a super interesting story. So I wanted her to join us and kind of talk about her background and what brought her here, because everybody's got an interesting story, but this one is probably more unique than most. So Ivory, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Dylan. Thanks for that introduction, and aloha from the east side.
Yeah, from the east side. So just island-wide coverage. So let's start from the beginning. Like where were you born and raised? Kind of what did you do early on in life, and then kind of what led to the real estate journey?
Sure. So I was actually born in the Midwest, and we didn't move to Hawaii until the 80s. My dad was drawn here. Always visited as a kid himself, and always said, I'm gonna live in Hawaii when I'm older. I'm gonna move to Hawaii. So he did, and he took us kids. I have a brother. He took us kids. We landed on the Big Island, and it's funny. My dad's a videographer, and he was working for news channels on the mainland. And he comes here, and the volcano starts going off, and he's like, "Is nobody shooting this? Oh my gosh, I got to get my equipment." He calls a friend. He's like, "Send my equipment out here. There's a volcano going off. I got to shoot this." So he started doing that. And it's funny, it became his career. It became his life's work. I choke up just because this island means so much to me, He started documenting the Kilauea volcano in the 80s, and he really hasn't stopped since. He's in his 70s now. And he still goes up in the helicopter. Yeah, he works alongside Bruce Amari. So Bruce does the stills. You know Bruce, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your dad's name?
Oh, Mick Kalber.
Okay.
He shoots all the video.
Yeah, so I'm sure tons of stuff that people have seen, all the B-roll about the video and stuff online, he probably shot, right?
You got it. Yeah, even all over the mainland when they go live, when they go to even the Today Show and the major ones, that's usually my dad's footage, because he's just been the go-to guy for now, 36 years.
Yep. Wow, that's awesome. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So I grew up, it was that kind of thing too, where we're kids in Puna, and my dad's going up in the volcano up in the helicopter shooting the volcano. And we kids, he's like, "You guys want to come?" "Dad, a helicopter again? So boring." Kids, right?
Perspective. Yeah, it's all perspective.
Exactly.
Yep.
So obviously, looking back, I had very blessed childhood. I loved growing up here. I mean, again, as kids, we're like, "Where's Disneyland? Where's the amusement parks? We're bored." Yeah. And meanwhile, as an adult now, it's like, this is paradise. This is what it's about. There's so much to do here.
Never trade this for an amusement park.
I know, right? How silly, yeah? When you're kids, you just think that way, I guess. So that's what led me to the mainland for college. And I did get to have that experience of the big cities. And
so where'd you graduate from?
Oh, so I went to Hilo for 3 years, and then my grandparents gave me the opportunity to go to HPA. So I graduated from HPA. I did 1 year there. I boarded, and it was nice. It was a nice combination of the public schools and then the private school. It was great, and I have friends from both, and it's made it great for real estate too, because I actually know the West Side a little bit more. Yeah, which is great. I know Waimea pretty well,
So HPA, you have kids from the whole island, so you got friends that are kind of spread out instead of just your little circle in your community, right?
Exactly. And a lot of international students. And, I really have a broad range of friends and SOI, as we call it in the business, right?
Yep.
And then I went off to college in Colorado. I got my degree in TV news, actually. I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps, and my grandpa actually was a newscaster way back in the 70s. He was actually on the Today Show, and kind of a big deal. He used to sweep the floors for Johnny Carson. And back then there was no news. And he's like, "Wait a second, there's a lot going on in the world, and we're not telling anybody." So he I think he even asked Johnny Carson, like, "Could I do a little something on the air before you go out? And I'm just going to tell them what's going on." And so he was like one of the pioneers of news, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Floyd Kalber is his name, and the late great. He passed on a while ago now, but so I do kind of have that glitz and glamour life before I got into real estate.
Tell us
So
about that.
yeah, after college, I moved to LA. The bright lights called me, like I said, and um, I had stars in my eyes. I never wanted to be like an actress so much, but I always wanted to model. And back in the day, I did a little like local kind modeling here, but when the bigger agents came to visit, I wasn't like the skinny kind of girl. And so back then they didn't realize it, but they said, oh, you need to lose 30 pounds, and I wasn't going to do that. I'm actually really glad I didn't like starve myself or anything like that. But I still had it in me that I wanted to do that. So by the time college rolled around, this plus size modeling was a lot more popular. And so I started seeing that. And by the time out of college, I went to LA and I went into an agency and took some pictures, went by and said, hey, could I model? And they said, yeah. So it was pretty cool. And it was a nice redemption after that 14-year-old girl that got told, you need to lose 30 pounds, So, and then I actually had a almost 20-year career as a model in LA, New York, traveling all over the world. And I loved it. I really loved it. It was, it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks. It's a little bit lonely, honestly, because you're traveling a lot by yourself and you're in.
So what kind of stuff? Like what kind of modeling?
Oh my gosh, like mainstream stuff. Like you could find me in Target, JCPenney, Sears, all the big names, Walmart, Kmart.
Yep.
Yeah, just mainstream model. I also did, and I still do a little bit of like lingerie kind stuff, but not like for magazines. It's products, so I'm working for like the wholesaler. And yeah, I'm very Googleable. So if you Google me, you'll probably see, tons of pictures. And I ended up being on a couple of reality shows. They were all smaller, so nothing really anyone would know too much about. But again, you'll see that if you Google me. And my biggest thing too was that I loved was game shows. I've been on 5 game shows. Again, smaller names that you wouldn't necessarily know, but I've won.
Which ones?
Okay, so my first one I was ever on was called Smush. Again, you wouldn't know it. Second one was Pyramid, but I didn't win on that one. So third one was 1 versus 100. That one was kind of known.
I remember that. Yep.
And it was actually the host of that was Carrie Ann Nava. She's a local girl. Yeah. So, and then the fourth one is unknown. It was called Let's Ask America or something like that. And then
so what's that process like? How do you get onto a game show? Is this you apply for or what,
You do. It's a casting process, and you can find the castings many places, like even Craigslist or probably Facebook now, so they're looking, and you just apply, you go, sometimes it's a big cattle call, and you go and stand in line and put your name in, and you really have to have the personality. You just got to get in there and
act. What people don't realize about it is like you don't just get on a game show, right? They pick the right people with the right personality and energy and all that kind of stuff, right? So
exactly. So you really do have to have that, and unless I guess Jeopardy, if you're just really smart, you can get on Jeopardy. You don't need a personality.
You can tell when you watch Jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I loved it. And the last one I did was funny you should ask, and it was just a few years ago. And yeah, my grand total is $29,000 I've won on game shows.
So you actually do take home the money.
You do. You absolutely do. It's actually very similar to being paid in real estate. It's a 1099 situation. So you have to claim the money yourself and pay taxes on it, just as though it were income.
Yep.
Which is why people evade, because it's on you to tell them, but they know you made it too.
Right.
So they can catch you in that.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So you're doing all this stuff, like traveling the world, doing stuff in LA and Hollywood. Like, what brought you home to Puna?
Oh yeah. So again, I'm gonna tear up because I just love it here. But I got pregnant on the mainland, and I just thought about, I was like, I always wanted to raise my daughter or my kids in Hawaii, back where I was raised.
I totally get that.
Yep. It's a common thing. So I was literally 7 months pregnant, moved back here. I moved in with my parents at almost 40 years old, but that's the way. It was nice. They helped me out. I had her here, and she's almost 5 now. So that was definitely part of the situation. When I moved here, I had some good savings from my job over there. And I lived off of that for, I want to say, almost 2 years, and just kind of cruising and really devoting my life to my daughter. And And I'm really glad I did. That was a great experience. You know, we spent our days going to the beach and just cruising together, and it was a great bonding time. And by the time she was around 2, I started running out of money. And I started getting a little bored, you know, thinking, what's my next step? What am I going to do? I need to make money. I need to find something fulfilling that I, you know, enjoy. And I couldn't think of much more than bartending. Or luckily, I remembered a friend, the late great Bill Parecki, who was an amazing East Side agent.
Yep.
He told me a while before that, a good like maybe 7 years or something before he got into it. And he said, if there's someone that should be a realtor, Ivory, it's you. And so I guess I remembered that. And I always thought, okay, back in my head, maybe realtor, maybe realtor.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest. I was like, there's so many realtors. Why is someone going to pick me?
Right. Right.
I just was like, they're a dime a dozen. They're kind of not really revered, I didn't think, in the world, you know. Everybody kind of thinks of us as, I don't know what, dumb or
used car salesman. Yeah.
Used car salesman kind. Yeah. And that's the other thing. I hate sales. I've always hated sales.
Yep.
I suppose in modeling and acting and even game shows, I sold myself. I was always comfortable with that.
Yep.
But I don't want to force you to buy anything.
Right. Right.
At all.
And that's why you're successful.
Right. Yeah. See, so
that.
I'm more, and that's what I like. Yeah. I think I like that approach where it's like, hey, no pressure, whatever, if you want it, I want it for you. If you don't, I'm down. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
Let's walk away. And
so what made you pull the trigger? You know, thinking this is not the right thing for me. And you know, was there a sign? Was there something, an event that happened? Like what made you say, okay, I'm going to sign up for the class and start doing this?
I don't recall an actual like moment. I just thought, I guess I'll give it a try. Yeah, there actually wasn't that much positive energy behind me thinking, honestly. I got to be honest. And
I love the honesty.
That part is what an amazingly positive experience it's been. So it's been a nice juxtaposition and a really great contrast to what I thought it was and what I thought it was going to be and what it's actually been.
I guess that's a great lesson there, is that don't let your preconceived notions or uninformed judgments, right? That's a good thing about life in general, but definitely about real estate is don't let that hold you back. Or
exactly. Or it's also just an act as if type of moment where it's just like, I don't really believe in this, but I'm going to pretend like I do. I'm going to sign up anyway. I'm going to do contrary action and see what happens. I didn't know. And to tell you the truth,
my story is very similar. So I totally understand that. It wasn't like my passion to get, some people have this like passion to get into it. And I kind of did it because I was in a weird place in life and I needed something to do. And it seemed like it was a good option. So.
Yeah, good option. But honestly, I really, truly thought, now remember, for the 3 years before, I devoted my life to my daughter and I'd modeled once or twice a year. So I was literally making maybe $4,000 a year those few years. So I'm looking at that thinking, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license, become a realtor. If I make 25 grand the first year, I'm happy. That's a fortune to me.
Big raise. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was, and maybe that's a great attitude to go in with, is whatever it is, I'm happy with.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean I want to limit myself, because I didn't. And as my story went, my numbers were pretty amazing. My first year, I closed 20 sales. And
that's unheard of, normally. So I want to dig into that a little bit so people can kind of understand. So what do you attribute that to?
I honestly think I had somewhat of the perfect storm when it comes to real estate. Again, my personality is great for it. I'm pretty out there, open. What you see is what you get. I'm a very honest person. People think I'm very real is a word they often use for me. Maybe even uncensored and, to the point. Kind of, that's why I did pretty well in New York too. I kind of almost have a New York edge.
Okay.
Some people find it intimidating, but once you get to know me, you realize I'm actually an island girl that had a lot of experiences, that enjoys being here, and I'm really not as intense as I seem. But anyway.
Okay, so what's that perfect storm? Is it just, having, it's the personality and stuff, but then a lot of people get into this business, with no idea of where the business is going to come from. It kind of surprises me sometimes, where it's like, that's the first question I ask people is, I got it. Like, you may be perfect for this, but where's your first client going to come from? Do you
Right.
have a
And
plan? Did you have a plan?
I didn't have a plan, but it quickly revealed itself. Again, what I said, I grew up here.
Yep.
So I knew so many people.
Yep.
In addition to my sphere of influence is so broad. I know people on East Coast, West Coast, again,
Yep.
some international. So that's why I call it the perfect storm. I have a lot of my first sale. I was cruising downtown, trying to pretend like I'm a professional and go into the offices and having my business cards and maybe a name tag. And I run into an old family friend in the hallway and I say, I'm a realtor now. And she says, oh, that's great, honey. I want to buy a house. And I'm thinking, okay, this is fake. This is not happening. Yeah, right. And I say, well, here's my card. Give me a call. Lo and behold, that's my first sale.
That's a perfect example of don't be a secret agent, right? So many
That's
people
right.
get into the business and then they don't tell anybody, and they're wondering why they don't get any activity or any attention. And I'm like, who have you told that you're now in the business and you're a realtor? Well, I'm nobody, because I don't know enough yet, or I'm not ready. And I'm like, you're never going to be ready. You got to fake it till you make it, right? And have a support system that's going to help you make it. But I mean, that's a perfect example. Just throwing it out there, right? The first thing
Throwing
you
it
say,
out there.
yeah. People got to know that's what you do, right? I mean, we cannot be a secret agent. So,
and that's
cool.
That's a big part of it. And that goes along with, I had a pretty good social media influence in my life. Obviously, being a model, I had about 10,000 followers. I didn't end up using that profile anyway, but initially I mentioned it on there. And so you just get the word out, which of course goes to your Facebook. And then it just started happening. And maybe by the time I closed that first deal and posted it, again, you just start gaining traction. You start, that's why it's called a sphere of influence. It's round, it goes, and then it trickles off and somebody tells somebody. And then along with, I have an innate sense of customer service and of how I would want to be treated. Like I said before, the reason I thought about bartending is I'd bartended in the past. And so I've done that service industry. And I've also been a patron at service industry, obviously, haven't we all? And don't we know the difference between getting that great service where you can tell someone cares about you, or that, where's the check? Where's the waitress? I asked for salt. Where's water?
Yeah.
I've hated that. I'm a very high level person. I expect a lot from life and I give a lot to life.
That's a great analogy. I've never thought about it this way, but if you're good at service in any sense, it's going to apply, right? It's just a number. It's just a scale, right? Whether it's a $20 meal at lunch or a $2 million house, if the service is good, I mean, you're always going to remember that experience, right? It's going to leave an impact with you. So
absolutely. And that's why I'm not a salesperson, but I can treat people well in a transaction. And I just know what it's like to feel forgotten, or to feel like, and that was another thing. I love answering my phone. And that's a big difference from most people / agents, right? My phone rings, I answer it, and people know that. And I've kind of called myself.
And it's sad when they're surprised, right? They said, "Oh, you answered your phone." I'm like,
exactly.
That's how I feed my kids, is answer my phone. Like you're calling to help me feed my kids. Like, I gotta answer. So.
But people are really not used to that. I don't know what our society has done. I know we all love to text, and I'm a great texter too. I love texting. And maybe it's not so healthy because I'm maybe a little addicted to my phone, but it works in this industry for sure.
Totally. Okay, so you start off, you have a killer first year, and then kind of what brings you to today, and you recently joined the team. What are some factors that you kind of looked into that say, okay, I got to do something different to go to the next level? Or, I mean, what is that process like?
My agency I was originally with, my brokerage, was great. I really loved my broker. I really learned a lot and did really well with them. And the funny thing is, in the big scheme of all the brokerages, I want to say they're about as close as you can get to EXP. So for that reason, I was keeping my eye on EXP the whole time. I just kept seeing, either the signs or Facebook groups that mention it or whatever. I always thought, could it be true? Could it, they make it sound pretty good. And I have something pretty good. but is it possible that that would work a little better for me? And I didn't know all the ins and outs until I actually talked to you guys more seriously. But what ended up happening was I'm doing even more volume than my first year by far. Actually, I'm probably going to double that. I'm just crossed over 7 million so far this year with, I think, 29 transactions. So I think I'm going to close out maybe about 36, hopefully a few more. Yep. And at that rate, what my old brokerage was offering was still good, but not as good as EXP could be for me. So that's what I did. I started looking at the actual numbers. I really loved the look of you guys, and that was something that's really important to me. That's another reason, another perfect storm item. I love houses. I love remodeling houses. I love interior design. I love all that. I mean, who doesn't? HGTV, right? We're all like glued on it, right? But I've actually done some of that. I was actually in New York City. I had a cute apartment with a girlfriend. She and I basically turned it into like an Airbnb before Airbnb existed. So I kind of have a knack for that, like make things beautiful, make things on a dime too. That kind of thing. So,
and that's it's invaluable when you're like listing a house and you got to help a seller who has no clue about stuff like that, make it presentable and get them the top dollar. I mean, huge asset.
It's huge. And that again quickly became seen. And I had some great first listings that helped me showcase that, which was great. I started doing my own staging right away. Mm-hmm. So again, I have an eye for it. I also have, again, on a dime. I was buying things for $100 off Amazon and it looked beautiful. It was kind of minimal, which was even kind of a great thing too. It saved me money and also made it look really kind of streamlined and sleek and chic in a way. Yep. So yeah. So, and then I guess we heard about you and you have such a great presence online, and that's huge right now. I mean, if that's almost everything, really. Just like I told you about me, I do pretty well faking it on Instagram and everything else too, but it's not even faking it, but it's just good marketing.
Right.
Where you're just showing what you just recently did. And I always put the tagline, want me to do this for you? I can. Mm-hmm. And, call me now. I got you. Yep. And it's really working so much so that I get 2 and 3 calls for listings a day.
It's crazy.
And it's crazy. And they're people that know many, many realtors. And I'm like, really? Just what I remember the first question I ever asked, why me? Why would someone pick me? Uh-huh. And now I get it. I mean, once you have a little bit of experience and a little bit of success in it, it ripples. People see that.
Well, and people are drawn to the right energy, right? You may know 10 or 15 realtors, but people are going to be drawn to other positive people that they feel like are going to take care of them. And that's the intangible stuff. Like you can sell 1 million houses, but at some point, if you lose track of what's important and what your priority should be, people will feel that.
That's so true. And that's what I love is just like you said, I'm really doing this for my family and for a living legacy for Iris, my daughter. Mm-hmm. My boyfriend has 2 boys and we're a kind of a blended family. And it feels amazing when I see these numbers of what I can do and what I've done. I'm like, this is great. This is really, I'm so glad I got into this industry. Again, it's been such a surprise.
And that's the coolest thing you'll find out, as you move along, especially in the EXP business model, is that there's such a huge focus. The founders and the leaders of the company are so focused on that legacy benefit to your family and to your future. In real estate, I mean, and I'm a second generation realtor. I watched, my parents work for decades for companies. And then when they retired, they get a luncheon and a certificate that said, good job. There was no ownership in the company. There was no long-term residual income, all those things, unless you were a broker owner or a franchise owner, those things aren't available to you. And in this business model, there's an exit strategy, right? You don't have to do this to your 90 years old. You can be successful at it. If you work hard, regardless of where you are, you're going to be successful as a realtor, right? But at the end of the day, after 10 or 20 years, what is your residual benefit from being successful, right? And that's the thing that I think you find over time is going to be the coolest part about it, is you don't have to do this forever.
I'm already seeing that. And that's what I love. And that's why I love that I did it sooner rather than later, made the move. And that's what I would tell anyone that's considering it. It worked best for me because I was doing pretty good numbers. I'll say that. But I'm just glad I did it when I did, so I can start getting these residual benefits sooner
Stock
than
ownership,
later.
revenue share. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
That's huge. I couldn't believe it when you told me. And I'm obviously shooting for the stars. I want an icon like as soon as I can. And I like those kind of goals. I am goal oriented.
You have to and put them out there and be accountable. Let people know. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any closing thoughts? That was a lot. We covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah, I guess.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk
find me on
about this,
Instagram.
about either buying or selling real estate or getting involved, in the team and EXP?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Ivory Realtor. And you can also follow I rehab the house I'm in right now recently. And it's like I said, that is a passion of mine. It was fun, although it was a lot more work than I ever thought it would be. So, and that Instagram handle is at Smart Blonde Investments. So that's a little side shoot that I do. Okay. And then I love being a listing agent, but I also love helping buyers on the east side, and I'm branching off to the west side now too. So you can reach me best at my phone number, 727-0007.
Perfect. Thank you for taking the time. That was great. And I will have to do it again and hear more stories.
Yeah, let's do this again and see that the progress. I want to see that. This is so new for us, but I'm so excited to see. And it's already been so great with you guys. I definitely have nothing negative to say, and it's just been awesome. And I love the energy. I love the team, and I can't wait to meet you guys more and get to know you guys better.
The best is yet to come.
You got it.
Thanks, Ivory.
Thanks, Dylan. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.